Let us see Vivek. Vivek is the ability to discern, distinguish, or differentiate. It is one of the fourfold qualifications or sadhan chatushtay which are required for spiritual enlightenment. The fourfold qualifications are Vivek, Vairagya, Samadhi Shatak, and Mumukshutva. So this is the first step to set us on the path to liberation. First and most important, because unless we cultivate this qualification, it's not possible to cultivate other qualifications. Vivek has to be cultivated in the Vedantic perspective as distinguishing between the self and non-self, real and unreal, and seer and the seen. A hymn has been composed by Swami Ramakrishnanandaji of Ramakrishna order on Swami Vivekananda, who was his brother disciple. I shall share only 2 lines from the hymn. Anitya drishyeshu viveccha nityam tasmin samadhatta iha smalileya vivek vairagya vishuddha chittam yosu viveki tamaham namami. I salute that Viveki who can discern between the eternal, everlasting, and the non-eternal, transient, who can establish himself very easily into the eternal, whose mind is purified with Vivek and Vairagya, discernment and dispassion. I salute that person of great wisdom. So let us understand this Vivek with respect to self and non-self. The only thing that belongs to us, ourselves, is the Atman, because it is never changing, it is static, and all other things is except the Atman are Anatman or changing as the bodies and minds. In close proximity with the Atman, we commit the error of considering these bodies and minds to belong to us, to be ourselves. But in fact, these do not belong to us. These are ever changing. The body of a baby or child or a teenager or a person of young age or adult or a person of advanced age, these bodies differ. The mind of a teenager and of a senior citizen, these differ. In every age, these bodies and minds undergo change. These are subject to change. Ever changing is their nature. So the matters which are subject to change from time to time cannot be considered to belong to us, because our very nature, root nature, is Sat-Chit Ananda, absolute existence, consciousness, bliss, which doesn't undergo any change. We are ever happy, ever bliss, ever in bliss. In fact, bliss is our nature. So the Atman is only self, and all other things except Atman are non-self. We should be able to distinguish between the Atman and Anatman. We should also be able to distinguish between the real and unreal. The real thing is the Atman, Sat, and all other things except the Atman are Asat, Mithya, false, because they are going to decay, die, deteriorate some or the other day. For example, wealth or relationships or objects of sensory pleasures, these are going to end someday. The relationships break or come to an end, or if not break, some or the other day, we or the persons in our proximity or who are related to us are going to die. We are going to die some or the other day. Therefore, the relationships end some or the other day. Likewise, the wealth also comes to an end. It is going to be consumed. It is subject to transaction. In practical material life, if you do not sell your property, the persons belonging to you, your legal heirs or other relatives, may sell it to some other persons. So, all these material things of practical world are subject to change. These are transient and impermanent in nature. And when we realize or recognize their temporary nature, ultimately dispassion for these things, detachment for this material things is developed. So after Vivek, Vairagya is developed. Therefore, Vivek is necessary before development of Vairagya, dispassion. We should be able to distinguish between the seer and the seen. Rupam drishyam lochanam drik, tad drishyam driptu manasam, drishyate vrittaya sakshi, drageva nada drishyate. The objects are perceived, the eyes are the perceiver. The eyes are perceived, the mind is a perceiver. The mind is perceived, the Atman, the Sakshi, the witness, is the perceiver. But it cannot be perceived by anything, as it is the subject, not the object. The mind directs the experiencing of objects through various sensory objects, like skin or tongue or ears or nose, etc. The mind directs this experiencing of objects through sensory organs, and the Atman, the Sakshi, witnesses this experiencing of the objects through the sensory organs by the mind. So we are not this, we are the witness, the Sakshi. And this ability to distinguish between the seer and the seen. We are the subject, the witness. We are not the object of sensory pleasure, the object of perception. We are not this. These objects are subject to deterioration. They are perishable. Whatever it is, if it is experienced by you, the subject, it's going to vanish some or the other day. Therefore, do not crave for or desire for any object of the senses. So, this is the distinguishing between the self and non-self, real and unreal, and seer and the seen. And this is the prerequisite. Vivek is the prerequisite for the cultivation or development of dispassion, Vairagya. Unless we develop Vivek, we cannot proceed further on the path to enlightenment, because after Vivek, Vairagya is there. Then Samadhi Shatak, then Moksha. So Viveka is the prerequisite for development of dispassion. It is ultimately leading to dispassion. Once we recognize this transient nature of the material objects, we the desire for these material things is faded away. It develops on its own. We don't have to specially try for it. Okay. It is also necessary for spiritual enlightenment. We cannot progress on the spiritual path. Our Vedantic text state that spiritual progress is impossible without cultivation of Vivek. And when a spiritual seeker recognizes the difference between the eternal, everlasting, and the non eternal, then only he can experience true spirituality. How to cultivate Vivek? The cultivation of this distinguishing attitude requires constant self-reflection and spiritual practices. We have to acquire knowledge, Vedantic knowledge, from a spiritual master or Sadguru who is well versed in the Vedas, Shrotriya, who is always settled in Brahmanishta, and who is a Kamhat, who cannot be lured or who cannot be distracted by the objects of senses or sensory pleasures, who is not injured or affected by sensory pleasures, a Kamhat. We have to acquire the Vedantic knowledge from a Shrotriya, Brahmanishta, a Kamhat, Sadguru. We have to contemplate on this knowledge and meditate upon it. This is the way to discernment, dispassion, developing control of senses, and mumukshutva, strong development of strong desire for liberation, intense desire for liberation. So, by cultivating Viveka, we ultimately reach spiritual enlightenment. We attain Supreme Self. We are freed from the bondage of birth and death. We are spiritually enlightened. Jai Shri Ram Krishna.